All right. Rio here, week 4. Wow. So we are almost halfway through this class, right? So this is a 9-week class. Week 4, which we're coming into, is almost halfway through. So next week, next Friday is kind of the place where they talk about that. And when I talk about that, I mean like the school has if you're going to drop, do it by the halfway point of the semester. So, by the way, I'm not recommending anyone drop. This class is really doing awesome, and I appreciate all the work and the effort that you're putting into it. I hope you're getting value from that. Seems like you are. And let's just continue on. So this week, and boy, this is not, I can't mention this enough. You'll hear it a couple times. Um, and the video instruction, I believe, touches on this, but we move from, and I talked about it last week, so get ready. We move from working at GitHub, at the web interface, to moving local. So here's the deal. You're now going to be updating your files and using your editor. And some of you may have already done this, and I think some of you have because you're taking some of my other classes, which is totally awesome. But I'm just going to tell for those of you that aren't, is that it's really important that you understand you should not change what's happening, what the files are in any way out on GitHub. And here's the reason. Your source is your local system. And if you do the following, which is you're like, oh, I just need to make a minor change to that file, and rather than to use GitHub and do the workflow, which you're going to learn this week, you know what, I'll just go out to GitHub. And by the way, GitHub will allow you to do this. You just shouldn't, because here's what will happen is when you come back later and you want to make a change to your local system, you're going to get an error. Which, by the way, I'll work you through. I'll help you figure that out. I think it's actually in that video, is to show you how to actually resolve what's called conflicts, because your local system, when it goes to try to push your stuff out to GitHub, will say, oh, hey, there's something different than what I have locally. And they say that's GitHub will term that a conflict. So just don't because when you first see it, it's like, oh, it can be a little stressful. So if you don't modify GitHub after we've cloned, which we did last week, and now we do the workflow this week, and workflow is just git add, git commit. Well, first is git status. Always learn how to, git status. And you do have to navigate to the folder that you're trying to push files or version control files to. Git status, git add, and I use star because I just like to get them all, anything that's out there, but you can do the individual files. Git commit -m / git commit message, and then git push. So that process is the workflow. This is the workflow that students who taking my 93 and my 94 and my 84, they did day one. But because we're hoping to help you move through the process, you get it this week. All right, so that's number one, is that that's heading at you. We're going to do CSS crash course this week, and I already got a question, so I think I'll cover this here, right? In his video, in the video from Travis this week, no, it's not Travis, it's Tavistry. I don't know. In this video right here, he actually builds a structure out, and it starts with CSS cheat sheet. You can either do that structure, but just know, and let me just go ahead and move over to my editor real quick, right? So in your private under lectures, right, you can either do this, you can do, oh, by the way, really important, make sure you're in that folder before you create a new one. Otherwise, you're going to be surprised where that gets created. So you could do CSS here, or you could do CSS cheat sheet here. I just like CSS the directory. Now in the write-up, I actually say you can just create the same one he does, which is totally fine. Or I just like CSS because to me, cheat sheet, none of the others are called cheat sheet. So it just kind of, but then under there, you're also going to end up, and this may feel a little weird, CSS cheat sheet as a directory under that as well. right? And here's what happens, and I'm sure you've already seen this in VS Code, is when you create a directory under a directory, until you add a file to either of them, it will look like this. It won't look like this folder, right? Because in this case, you have 3 subdirectories. And in this case, you have no directories or files. So just know that it can look a little weird, right? And then you're going to end up creating an index file, right? So then what happens is it still doesn't, because this is within this folder and not in the CSS folder, right? So just start getting used to that idea. Let me just come back here, right? So just get used to creating folders, navigating folders, creating folders within them, creating index files. And that's the other thing, is that, and I talk about this a little bit, but being able to, once you create these index files, you can also just look at them on your local computer. I actually just recorded a new video for week 5 that you're going to see next week, talking about how to view that file on your local system. Because that's definitely something you'd want to do, right? So let me just show you again, because I think it's worth talking about. So in here, right, here is that index file, right? And so let's just say I go ahead and do that. And I put in here, right, like CSS crash course. And then I end up, right, and then I'm going to do like a H1 using, again, something we'll talk about called Emmet. Todd teaches this as well. And then you'll do, right, you'll end up linking your other files and doing some other work here. I have autosave, so my files are automatically saved. And if I want to see what this looks like on my computer, there are multiple ways you can do this. You'll learn later how to run servers and all that. But what you can do is just open up your system's file system, your local operating file system. I'm going to do this. Must be over on my other screen. So let me try that again. Hold on, I just got to throw it from my other. I have 2 screens on. How many of you guys work with 2 screens? It's awesome, except when that happens. Okay, so I'm going to actually, in this case, mine, here's my 82, and there's my private, and there's my lectures, right? And there's my CSS, and then under cheat sheet, wherever you put it, you can actually just double click on this file. And what we'll do is open in a browser. And then whenever you modify your HTML in your editor, right? Then again, if you have auto save turned on, boom, right there. What will happen in the browser, if you just hit refresh, then you will see those changes happening there. Okay. So that process, again, you'll learn different ways to do this as you grow in your web development skill base. You'll learn different ways to run servers on your local computer, view those files. There's also plugins for Chrome, like as an example, there's one I've used before. I can't even remember why. And it's a Chrome extension, which, by the way, Chrome extensions are going away, FYI, right? Of a 200. And it's basically called Web Server for Chrome. And if I wanted to, I could start up a server there. But for this week, just keep it easy, or keep it, or take it to the next level. I also use something called Live Server. It's loaded on my entire system. So no matter where I'm at, if I want to run a server from that file location, I can do that as well. If you want to know more about that, you will learn that as we move into some of the more advanced classes. But for this week. All right, so the thing I want to just FYI you about is that my Monday office hours, so I'm switching topics here. On Monday, and you'll notice this in the syllabus, is that I was going to be at Bitwise in the 4:30 to 5:20, but because of meeting obligations on Fresno City College campus, I'm actually now on Monday going to be in my office from 1:30 to 2:30. And then on Wednesday, I'm still at Bitwise before my evening class, right? But several of you have reached out and scheduled stuff with me, which is totally awesome. Know that if our schedules, and again, this is a little bit of a repeat, but if our schedules don't work out, just reach out to me and let's figure out a time. We can do a video chat. I've chatted with a handful of students in this class already this semester. So it's really good if you have any questions and we can't figure out a time that is good for both of us. That is another really great option to have. All right. So as we move in, it is Super Bowl weekend. I hope those of you that enjoy that have a great time. I'm not really, I know this is like horrible in this world of so many of you that are, but I'm just not a football fan. So I'm going to go hiking, I think, that day. I'm going to try to get out in the beautiful weather and get some physical activity. Anyway, whatever you do, I hope you enjoy it with your family and friends, and I will chat with you next week. I did release the updated content for week 5 because there's a couple of you working ahead. So as a reply, you can say, respond to any of the stuff I've already talked about, or you can say who you're rooting for in the Super Bowl. Have a good one. Peace out.